passionate leader. Because leadership without passion is just a title.
Meeting. We got a collapse in the garage. Get the squad back equipment in here. We got an IV bond of a firefighter. It's on island urgent. Transmit a second aloft.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Passionate Leader. Today's guest is somebody super special, and we actually collabed to make a two-part mini-series on this. Our guest today is Mike Goldstein, Stickers as everybody else knows him, from the Can Report. If you have not heard of the Can Report, you got to get out and listen to him. Go out there, search him up, give him all the likes, the follows, the shares, the hearts, and even blow him some kisses if you find a way to do it, because he takes them. Again, if you have not heard part one over on the Can Report, you have to hit pause and go back, because we talked about what a bottom feeder is, what the passionate leader is, and we're going to learn on our episode how exactly detrimental a bottom feeder can be. Mike Goldstein has been a first responder for over 20 years, starting as a dispatcher before joining the fire service, and he now serves as a career firefighter EMT in the town of Derry, New Hampshire. He is also a part-time state instructor with the New Hampshire Fire Academy. On paper, Mike checks all the boxes: certified, experienced, and leading by example. But what makes his story hit harder than most is what he's had to go through. Mike knows firsthand what it's like to be crushed by a toxic firehouse culture. He's been targeted, isolated, undervalued, but instead of folding and giving in, he dug his heels in and he rebuilt. He left, found the right agency, and now uses his voice through his leadership and his podcast, The Can Report, to amplify stories of struggle, triumph, and truth. He is married to his badass wife, Krista, who together are raising 15-year-old twin girls, and yet still finds time to promote leadership that is grounded in self-growth, grit, and some out-of-the-box thinking. So today we're talking about what it really feels like to be on the wrong end of a broken culture, what a bottom feeder can really do to you, how to survive it, and what it takes to bounce back from that. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get to it.
All right, dude.
Yeah.
Thanks for the intro, man. That was fantastic. Yes. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So, let's give a quick background on how you got into the fire service, and let's get right into your story.
Sure, bro. So actually I started, not knowing what I wanted to do in life. I started the fire service late in my life, became a firefighter in my 30s, as a call department. I started as a call member. My father-in-law is the one who really pushed me to become a firefighter. He was a career firefighter for Nashua. He retired after 28 years as a deputy chief. And he kept pushing me and said, "Hey, man, you need to do this. Like, start thinking about it." Because I was a dispatcher at the time for a defunct ambulance company called Rockingham Regional Ambulance. Dispatched there for like 8 years. Loved it. Honestly, loved dispatching. That was my former career. I did that for almost 20 years and loved every minute of it. So I was a dispatcher full-time and a call firefighter part-time. And once I started the fire side of it, like we got that bug, and I just didn't want to stop. So I hit the ground running. Loved everything about the fire service. I was looking for something to fill the void of like childhood. Like I wanted a brotherhood. I wanted family. And I knew that the fire service was that. My father-in-law told me all about it, and I wanted to make him proud. I want to make my parents proud, and my wife and my kids. And they're already proud of me. And like being a dispatcher was a fantastic thing, and I still love it. But I wanted to do more. I wanted to be out in the field, get my hands dirty. I'm a polar opposite of my father. My father does not like fishing. My father does not like getting his hands dirty. He does not like to sweat. So I am completely opposite. My whole line of family is not that. They're all, they're a house of learned doctors, to quote the Step Brothers movie, right? Like,
Yep.
They're all very highly educated. I have two sisters. One's a twin, and one's my little sister. And they all have amazing careers. One's in the military. One owns her own counseling business. My dad has a couple of masters. My mom has a couple of masters. My twin sister has a doctorate. So like, again,
Sure.
just all family that just did that side of thing. And then you got me, who wants to be blue collar, who had a tough childhood, and I wanted to do something more. So the fire service and the first responder field was calling me, knowing that I needed to help others from all of my trauma that I had when I was a kid.
I love it. So you got into the fire service and kind of, you start full time right from the very beginning, or did you start as a volunteer?
Started as a volunteer. So I was a career member for about 6 years, and then I got hired full time, and I've been full time ever since, and that's been now, um, I think roughly 6, almost 7 years as a career firefighter. And what was great was as a call member, I could still work shifts at that station. So on my off time, I would help work shifts at that firehouse, and we work like 8-hour shifts, and then the town's population started increasing, calls started to increase, and dispatching schedule was becoming really problematic and stressful.
Mhm.
And the environment that I was in was pretty stressful. So once they were hiring for a full-time spot, I applied for that and got it. And I did love it.
And so you said you did love it. Let's get the meat and potatoes.
Sure,
What
man.
kind of turned it south? Like what
So
happened?
that department I had loved. So like we talked about the toxic leadership, toxic environment, it started off great, little hiccups along the way, learning curves. The biggest learning curve with me was knowing that there was one person in particular that you don't mess with, that he is going to make sure that he lets everyone know that he's the tough nut and you can't crack him. And that if you cross him, you pay, meaning he'll push you out. He'll make your life shit. He'll stress you out until it's time to leave. And that was happening with a lot of our call members. And it's unfortunate. It's just something that a lot of people never really spoke up and talked about. And I had dealt with a lot of bad experiences with him. And it's something you just kind of just deal with. And that's what a lot of people in the department just dealt with. It was a normalization of deviance, right? Like it was just complacency. It was just like, well, he's toxic with people, or he's abrasive. Just let him be his thing. Just let him do it. Like that's you're not going to change him. And that was it. He was a full-time captain, and you don't argue with him because he's a full-timer and he knows everything and you don't. So you don't argue with him. And everyone knew he was just an abrasive dude. And I at points in my life, we were friends. Like we went to each other's homes. We would have we'd have events, we'd have parties. We went golfing together. When he got promoted to chief, we had a big party for him. We had these moments where it was fantastic, but then you had these other moments where it was just absolutely fucking horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like that abusive relationship, with like a domestic violence, right? Where the husband would hit the wife, and then, the wife's like, I'm going to leave. And then the husband would be like, no, baby, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. You just upset me. Okay. And then somebody else say, hey, you need to leave. You're like, no. He didn't mean it. He was just having a bad day. And that's literally how those things that would normally progress. It'd just be like, well, he was stressed and he didn't mean what he said. And so you would just like brush it off. And it would just happen all the time. And nothing was ever rectified. So I did love that department. I loved the people I worked with. I especially loved the call members that I worked with as well, because they were there for the reason. They were there because they loved being a firefighter. They loved serving their community. And I had the most badass, fun-ass times with those call guys. So when I was off my shift and a call would come in and I'd come in after hours, I was excited to do it because I get to play with the guys who are honestly the hard chargers. They just want to go in there and beat the shit out of that fire and have some fun and then go home. And maybe even after the call, we go for beers afterwards. Like that was what I wanted, right? After my shifts, like normally shifts on that department, you just like, all right, that's, the day's over and let's go back to work the next day. Cause it was 4 shifts. It was 4 on, 4 off, 12-hour shifts. So you just were waiting for that day to finally end because you just didn't want to see those guys for another 4 days because it was long and it was just tedious, busy work because we're not a very busy department.
Yep.
And so, like we talked about, like, when firefighters get bored, that's when like rumors start flying, you start picking on each other. And, but it was always that one thing. You just could not make him happy. And it was just starting to wear on me a lot. So, as I progressed in the fire service field, I started still getting that passion for it. And I still wanted to continue to grow and learn. And I think as I started progressing, I think I started to make him feel threatened because I was asking the questions of why don't we do this and why don't we do that? Or, hey, I'd like to teach this. Hey, I'd like to teach that. And it was usually met with no. You can't teach this, or you can't teach that. You're not qualified for this, or you're not qualified for that. And it just, after a while, really just started to bog me down. And the job wasn't fun anymore on those day-to-day basis. So,
yeah. What do you think that there was any one particular event that sort of you noticed as the tipping point of it, or is it just sort of accumulation of everything?
it's accumulation of everything, dude. So one of the biggest things I had realized that there was no arguing with this guy is, and people had told me about it when I first started, like, hey, you got to be careful what you say around him. He's going to use it against you, or because he would use people to getting other information about other guys. It was crazy. Like, he was developing this whole, us versus them culture. And what happened was, it was on a call. It was a chimney fire, and it's kind of like when I first started. It was like my first year on. I'm inside the house. The chief officers inside asked for me to go get a can. I walk out of the house. I didn't have my lid on because we're in the house.
Yeah.
So like I go outside to go get the can. He sees me walk out and he stops the show, stops everything. He's operating the ladder. So he's got guys on the tip and they're doing their thing at the chimney, and he stops, looks at me, and just berates me in front of everybody. Now, mind you, I started late in the fire service, so I was like 30-something years old.
Sure.
And here's this man just lighting me up in front of everybody because I didn't have my lid on. And he did this for probably about 5 minutes. Now, mind you, we have an active chimney fire we're trying to deal with.
Sure.
But it was so important for him to berate me and belittle me in front of everybody that stopped so he can embarrass me in front of everybody. Then once he was done, I politely asked, can I go get the can? He says, you can't. Somebody else can. So that person went to go get the can. They gave it to me. I walked back into the house, and the other chiefs there said, what took you so long? I said, well, I had a situation outside. So-and-so didn't like the fact I didn't have my lid on, and so he berated me for 5 minutes. And they all just looked at each other and went, well, that's so-and-so. That's the way it is. And so I was like, oh, okay, I guess this is acceptable. So I think it was like later than like the next day or a couple of days later, there was a situation where he blamed me for, I think, the door being unlocked or the lights being left on or something. And he, again, lit me up for that. And so I finally had enough. So I was doing the proper chain of command. I told my lieutenant. The lieutenant said, we need to have a conversation with our captain. And again, it is a call department. So they all had their conversations. They bring it up to the deputy chief, and the chief have a conversation. Then they talk to this person. Obviously, the person was not happy about having this conversation. The next day, sees me in the bay, stops me in the bay. And again, it's a conversation that I can remember as clear as crystal, like it happened yesterday. And he stops me and he says, do you have a vagina? And I said, do I what? And he says, do you have a vagina? I said, last time I checked, I don't have one. And he said, and I'm like trying to figure out where this is going.
Right.
And right. So he's like, then why are you acting like a pussy? Man. I was like, wow. Okay. I wasn't expecting that one. And he said, because you complained about me to your officers. So now the chief spoke to me. And if you have a problem with me, you come to me directly. You don't go and be a coward and go to somebody else and complain about me. If you got a problem, you talk to me directly. And I was like, well, I'm going through the chain of command. Like, I had an issue. I'm bringing it up to my officer so they can handle it. That's how it's supposed to go.
Sure.
Nope, that's not how it's supposed to go. You talk to me directly. Don't be a pussy. Come to me, talk to me so we don't have these problems. Not in that conversation was there ever I'm sorry you misunderstood my intentions. I am sorry you felt this way. I'm sorry you felt that way, or anything. It was, you're a pussy. Stop being a pussy. Come to me directly if you got a problem. And that day I realized there was never going to be a sorry coming from that dude's mouth. So that stuck with me. Again, that was 13 years ago. That really stuck with me because that made me realize that person does not care about your feelings. He only cares that somebody had to talk to him about his actions. And obviously, it didn't do any good. So then I realized too, is that I no longer can ever complain about him, because if I complain about him, it goes directly back to him, and he's going to have this conversation with me again. And it's going to be where he's going to make my life probably miserable, where I might want to leave as a call member. But still knowing that, I still came on as a full-time member. It was a little hesitation, just because I knew that I'd have to be with him all the time. But we ended up having a good rapport. But there's just things that in the firehouse himself that I don't think was acceptable as conversations and talks. But it was acceptable because of who he is and that environment that we're supposed to have. It's the firehouse. We talk like dudes, and we say faggot, we say homo, we say these things. And honestly, these things are not acceptable in our day, and they shouldn't be acceptable at all. But
exactly,
those are things that are just said on a normal basis, and was unapologetically spoken. And it just was a bad culture that was constantly breeding.
Yeah. Can I stop you for 1 second? So before we lose it, I want our listeners to understand that what he did by approaching you in the Bay is a direct and clear example of workplace retaliation. And if you ever experience this, there is legal ramifications that that person who is retaliating against you can and will face. Please make sure that you have a voice and understand that retaliation is 100% against the law and is definitely a fireable offense. I don't mean to cut your momentum off.
No, I love it,
but
dude.
I want to make sure that this is something that I have seen first place, that when you retaliate against an employee, a lot of people, I've heard a ton of leadership gaps. I talk about it during my program that I deliver to firehouses, is a leadership gap. And it is the acceptance, it's passive leadership. Well, that's how he or she is, or that's, had a bad day, or that's horse shit is what it is. It's the fact that those who say that are afraid of having that hard conversation with that individual. But yes, 100% retaliation. But how are you supposed to know, right? You were a call guy at the time, you said, right? So
Correct.
how are you supposed to know?
How are you supposed to know? But at the same time too, right? So we're ingrained with loyalty. We're ingrained with dedication to our department. So when we have that, who are we to speak up? Even if we know that is wrong and it's a fireable offense.
Right.
That's a lot of paperwork, and that's a lot of having to now make a statement, and now having to, again, that was just the start. There was way other things, right?
Sure.
But if I was to make that complaint, that's the end of me being honestly, I feel that would have been the end of me being a call fireman. It would have been the 2 years and done, because I would have been made to be a villain, and those guys there would not want me around, because now I'm a snitch, right?
Of course. Yep. And they get stitches.
Right. So you don't want to be labeled as a tattletale. You don't want to be labeled as a pussy. You don't want to be labeled as a problem child. So you take it, because we don't talk about those things in the firehouse. At least that's how back it was in the day, right? Was you don't talk about those things. You get lit up, and then you just keep it. And you're absolutely right. That was retaliation. Like finding me in the Bay by myself, having that conversation is wrong. But at the same time, it was ingrained that you don't question that. That's who he is, and that's how he acts, and that's it. So I continued on with the fire service within that department, started excelling and really taking on some more responsibilities. I loved everything about it, man. Like, I was a president of our association, and I became a president of our union because I wanted to see changes. I wanted us to just really move into the 21st century. The leaders before us had done such a great job with our association, but I knew we needed to do more. And so I like to think a lot. My brain's always working, right? So I'm always coming up with new ideas to do things. And some of the ideas I had were more progressive than what some of the older heads liked, but they worked. And, and I was very proud of those moments. And like perfect examples, like we moved our fireman's ball out of the basement of the VFW to the mile away, which is now closed. But that was a really big venue.
Yep.
And that was a really beautiful venue, and we never had it there before. And that was the whole thing of, let's get out of our logging boots. Let's get out of our Carhartts. Let's get into our Class A's. Let's give our wives, our spouses, a good time at a really nice place that has really nice food. And it worked, and it was beautiful. And they continued to do that. Again, all of those efforts kind of fell to the wayside once I left, because there was no accolades for Mike Goldstein on that, because Mike Goldstein, once I left, to go on to my new department, he was a villain. Again, he was a disgruntled employee, and we are not going to speak of that person ever again. So what really, to fast forward, what made me start realizing I need to get out was he was really doing his best to keep me down, to really repress me and trying to be more and to do more. So we had an open position for a captain of fire prevention. I had been doing a lot of that work beforehand. I've been kind of mentored in that position. Once that captain left, I didn't assume it was mine, but I knew I had a good chance.
Naturally,
so
yep.
The hiring pool was pretty shallow for it. It was me and one other person. Interviewed for it. It was a tough interview process, probably one of the worst and stressful oral boards I've ever been a part of. But I thought I did okay. So fast forward, waited months to finally hear anything about this position. He sits me down finally in the office and says, I'm sure you're wondering about that position. I said, yep. He says, well, so here it is. You didn't really test that well. You didn't really, your oral boards were not really all that great. But the other guy that we're hoping to start can't start. He's not able to move up within the time frame we need him. So because of that, if you want it, the position's yours. I said, okay. But yeah, the other guy has got better qualifications. The other guy's got this, the other guy's got that. But if you want the position, it's yours. Oh, by the way, it's no longer a captain position. We've changed it and it's now going to be fire prevention officer. So they changed the title. They changed the pay. They changed everything in that position without letting me know. So I had already tested it. I had already done the oral boards. And he completely changed everything about it without telling me. And then saying, if you want it, you can have it. If you don't want it, you can tell me to go fuck myself and we'll find somebody else. And I'm literally like looking around. Are you offering me this position or
yeah? What the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
Here?
See if you want it, or you can tell me to go fuck myself. I was like, but so it's not an officer position anymore. Correct. So it loses that pay. Correct. Any chance for it to move up to a lieutenant position? No. It is not an officer position. We've changed it because the other guy can't start. You don't have this and you don't have that. So I was like, wow, this is amazing. So
goddamn generous, huh?
Right. So it's, again, standards, right? If you're going to have standards and you're going to have a position, you can't just change the standards or the position at your whim because you feel like there's nobody else credible or you don't feel that I'm good enough. It's either that fucking be honest and say, you know what? I feel like I'd still be pissed off, but you know what?
Sure.
Sorry, this position's not going to go to you. We don't think you're going to be qualified for this. Yeah. Cool. But to dumb it down and say, well, there's nobody else. So here, by the way, it's not going to be the position that you hoped it was. We're reducing the pay. We're reducing the rank. And if you want it, there you go, dude. And that was literally how it went. So I did take it because it was a bump in pay. Yeah. And I really did enjoy doing the inspection side of things. I really did enjoy that. And I loved the PR of it. I loved being able to educate the kids. That was one of my favorite parts of being a fire prevention officer. As you know, it's cool going to the schools, reading books to them, showing everything that we love about being firefighters. I really did enjoy that whole aspect of it. And I enjoyed the title very much of just being able to learn more. I really loved the fire prevention side of educating yourself more about codes, about building construction. And it really, I started to build a passion for it. But that really, again, that was that starting point where, holy crap, like this is someone who's telling me I'm a nobody, or I'm not good at this, and you're not worthy of this rank anymore. And that's how it went usually within, again, we talk about succession planning. There was no succession planning. Yeah. So when he got promoted to a chief, he was the training captain. So nobody inside was able to be good enough to get that position. So when people with inside applied, it was immediate no, because there was nobody good enough. So they hired from the outside. Same thing with the captain of fire prevention. There was nobody good in that specialist position. I was just filling the void momentarily because then they restructured. So they restructured, they hired a deputy chief, and then the same guy who applied came in as a deputy chief of fire prevention. And so he was now the fire prevention officer as a deputy chief rank. So for the viewers,
prior to the application, guys, Mike applied for a captain's position. They couldn't get the candidate to come up because this candidate probably saw through the bullshit And they're like,
Oh no,
well,
he just couldn't move up in enough time.
couldn't move up in enough time. Good for them. They there's a dodge bullet there. And then, so what happens is they dumb it down because, well, we don't want to give Mike a title. And then all of a sudden, now it goes from a captain to a nobody to a deputy.
Correct.
That's logical. That
Right?
seems logical. Carry on, my friend.
So they changed that position. Now it's a deputy chief. And that deputy chief then became part of the training. He was now deputy chief of training and fire prevention. My position, then I was moved back to the truck as a line firefighter, which okay. But what sucked was that they also took my pay away.
Of course.
So they reduced my rank and then took away my pay, which really pissed me off. So we're hiring for more firefighters because, again, the town was growing, population's growing, call volume's increasing. They're doing the right thing by trying to get firefighters to help fill these shifts. So we hired out. And then coming with that was now a new position opening up where we had to hire for 2 lieutenant positions. So of course I applied for that because I lost my position and my pay. So why wouldn't I apply for the lieutenant spot?
Yep.
So I applied for that. But before the interview process happened, him and I had words, and there was all of a sudden something just clicked where we just did not get along a lot. And I remember I was parked at a call, and he was grilling me on the engine placement, and he was not happy about my answer, and he just went off on me, just grinding my gears on everything. And I remember calling a person about that. And that person, I told him a lot of other things that was going on. That person then called. It was like a tell a friend thing. Anyway, It got back to him.
Oh, of course.
And so he was on vacation at this time. So everything that I had apparently done, I had destroyed the world. It's like I was I was Satan reincarnated, and I had apparently just destroyed everything within a week time frame that nobody liked Mike for whatever reason was going on. Everyone had a problem. So he comes in from vacation and he is pissed, and he demands us to come down to his office. And it was me and 2 other guys, and he rips us apart about talking out of the station, about having problems with things. And if you're complaining, if you don't like it here, you can leave. If I hear you talking about what I have going on or what you don't like me doing, I'm going to fire you. I have no problem firing you. This is an at-will state. I can fire you as whenever I want. And I knew after a while that he was talking about me. But these 2 other kids, they're kids, and they're shaking in their boots going, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
What did we do? He was doing it for effect, right?
Oh, of course.
So he made those 2 leave the office and has me stay. He goes, I'm talking about you, right? I go, no, I figured as much. I don't know why you had these 2 kids here, but
poor kids are scared shitless now.
This is us. And I get that. And he's like, I heard you were talking this about me. I heard you were talking about that. I heard you had a problem with this and that. I'm like, and then all these other complaints came up, and I don't know where this is coming from. And like everyone had these stories completely crossed, but it really was my word against theirs.
Yeah.
And he was looking to build this, and I realize this now, but he was looking to build that case, right? This case against me. And because I did talk, I complained about that situation, about how this whole fire prevention thing happened, and how this doesn't seem right. And the person that I trusted to talk to is literally at a bar. We're at a bar having a conversation. That conversation went back to him. And then it just spiraled out of control. So he had a whole slew of things that bothered him about me. So when we had the lieutenant stuff come up, I knocked it out of the park. I was so happy and proud the way I presented it at that oral board. Now, mind you, I also had false hopes because we hadn't talked for weeks, the chief and I.
Yep.
But the hour before I was going to go to the oral boards, he had texted me and said, you're going to do great. Just be yourself. I know you're going to kill it. And I was like, oh, great. We're good again. I'm so happy. And so I had the oral boards. It was great. And then fast forward again. And I noticed he brought somebody in for an interview after the fact. I was like, why is this person interviewing again? Then I realized he was interviewing for a lieutenant position. And I grew suspicious. Finally, they sit me down about the spot. And they said, just so you know, you're not, I know this is going to be hard for you, but you're not getting the lieutenant position. And I said, okay, well, why is that? Well, it has to do a lot with the issues that we had. I think it was like 6 weeks ago. You know, we had this conversation that's still pretty fresh about you saying this and you saying that. And that's one of the reasons why. And I said, am I being punished? And he says, nope, you're not being punished. And I said, feels like I'm being punished because you just said it.
Yeah.
But he says, nope, that's the case. There's other things. I talked with the other chiefs. They backed me 100%, that you had other issues going on. And because of that, we feel that this is not your time for that position. And it really hurt because they were using stuff from the outside of what he said, she said stuff, and not actually talking to me about it and or looking at the facts of like, wait, something doesn't seem right. So I didn't get the position. It hurt real bad. But the really thing that really was, again, called, you know, like, again, we talk about standards and protocols, is they hired somebody from the outside, and they hired somebody who had less experience, who didn't have the qualifications, who didn't know the town, who didn't know how to pump, who didn't know a lot of these things. And again, so when I talk about it, yeah, Mike might sound disgruntled, but these are hard, cold facts though, as well, is that you lowered your standards. You didn't promote somebody because you personally had an issue with them. You sidestepped the qualifications and the experience and the knowledge that they had, and you gave it to somebody who had none of that. And so that hurt a lot. And then I was stuck on that same shift with that person who got the job over me. So that was really difficult because now it was my job to train that lieutenant. I had to train him on how to pump the engine. I had to train him on the town, right? These are the streets. These are our problem areas. This is this is that. Like, it was really difficult to try to actually hold it together of train somebody on a position that they weren't qualified to have.
Yep.
And and then that's when my attitude just kept spiraling down. And yeah, like that post I made about, about that write up, I was a very angry person. But I was naturally and rightfully so. And again, as leadership goes, those conversations, those good conversations were never had, right? It would have been great if him and I could have had a really good sit down and talk about things. But honestly, it was scary talking to him. And I was flat out honest with him. I only do it through text because I really didn't have the balls to say it to him in person because I'm actually an emotional person. So like if I started talking to him and it's happened where I've broken down and bawled right in front of him, he makes me nervous. He triggers something inside of me that I can't speak up. So I've told him that via text. And instead of like really trying to have those good conversations, it just were never had.
Sure.
And then so we'll back that up way back into childhood. I've had a lot of trauma when I was a child. So I had an abusive stepfather. I had an abusive stepmother. So a lot of that stuff, especially as having a very abusive stepdad, he was bringing out those things back to me. And it triggered me a lot where I felt like a little kid again. I felt like I was 10 years old and I didn't have a voice anymore. And I got the bubble guts. I got the cold sweats. I got a lot of those things that just made me nervous to talk to him. And it just made me spiral down in that hole again. When I was a child, I was a bad kid because I had a lot of bad shit going on. And the same thing, no one like bothered to say, hey, Mike, why are you getting in fist fights in school? Nobody really bothered to ask those questions. It was like, Mike is a problem child and we need to suspend him because he's beating people up, right? It was never those conversations of like, there's got to be something why he's violent. Something's going on.
Yep.
So again, now to adulthood, I'm having these same issues where I'm working as hard as I can. There's no pleasing this person because there's never a real thank you. Anytime you got a thank you, I always joked about it with people. If you get a thank you from this person, or if you get a job well done, you write it down in your dream journal and then you put it underneath your pillow. And when you're feeling down about yourself, you open that book back up and say, hey, this person said good job that day.
Right.
Because that's the only time it's going to happen. So, and I don't expect to be pat on the back because I showed up to work. But when I sacrifice my family time and other things to show up, like sacrificing your kids' birthdays to help fight a structure fire, yeah, I made that choice to go. But it would be really nice for him to say, hey, man, I heard that you missed your kid's birthday. I really appreciate you being here and working hard for us. And you worked all night and you came back to work. That's some cool shit right there. So those sacrifices that I made were gone. were nil. So when it came for promotion time, that didn't matter. Those couple of weeks that him and I had a personal issue, that's what mattered. He had that personal angst against me that made his decision for me to not get promoted. And that hurt really, really deep. It cut really, really, really deep. And then we talk about, like, for me, I talk about performance anxiety and toxic leadership. People struggled to perform in front of this person on the daily because, again, he scared them. He uses tactics where he's yelling at them. He's in their face, or it's just never good enough. You think you're doing something right, and he's there over your shoulder watching. He'll tell you right there, it's not good enough. You didn't do this right. And it's a scary event. So whether you're do some pumping or you're gonna throw a ladder, he's right there. And if you're not doing it right like he wants you to do it, man, you suck. And he's gonna tell you suck. He's gonna tell you need to be better. And I want people to tell me I need to be better. But if I know I'm good,
right,
it'd be nice also that you could tell someone to be better, but tell them how to do it. Like, hey, I saw you struggle on how to pick up that ladder. Try using this technique next. It's going to work for you better. You might be short so try with this ground ladder of moving it this way. It's going to work for your body type. Those things were never expressed. It was, wow, you sucked, or that's not good enough, or nothing. And then you would find out from somebody else saying, hey, he didn't like how you did that, so you need to do it again. It's like, it was a really, really difficult time. And again, when I got passed over for promotion, that's the stuff that hurt really, really bad. And everything just declined. And then when I got my written warning, not warning, that whole investigation thing.
Yep.
That 6-page document of bullshit, that really, it made me nervous. It made me scared. I thought I was getting fired. I didn't understand where this was all coming from. And it did make me really look outside myself, though. And what the craziest thing is, it actually turned my attitude around, because I realized I was punishing the people that weren't responsible. And I didn't want to let him win. I was letting him win, right? Because what he did was really good. He'd push you out. So he'd piss you off and make you have anxiety and just make you hate being there so much that you're going to leave. And I was refusing at that time. I'm not going to be that person. I'm not going to leave. I'm not going to let him win. And I'm not going to be walking around the station pissed off and angry at everybody. So once I got that the whole paperwork on me, it turned my attitude around. And I realized I can't be doing this anymore. So my attitude completely changed. It was actually like coming out of sobriety.
Okay.
Or becoming sober.
Sure.
Like, it felt like that. Like, all of a sudden, everything shifted. And I realized I need to atone for my sins. I need to apologize to the people that I was an asshole to. So I went around and I apologized to a lot of people, because I saw in the document that I made them uncomfortable, that they didn't have trust in me. And that really hit home, because I don't want anybody to not be able to trust me, because in what we do for work, you have to trust that person sitting next to you. They have to trust that person on a nozzle, your pump operator, your heel man. You need trust. If you don't trust that guy to do the job, you're going to be going to that fire pretty scared, because you're like, well, is this person going to kill me or not?
Right. 100%. Yep.
So it was very difficult. And it was an opening experience for me. And I shifted my attitude and I became a better person. I still had a lot of angst against him. And I don't expect closure. I don't expect an apology. But it really opened my eyes to that. And I realized, as well as, what am I working towards? Why am I going to be here? Because he would dangle the lieutenant carrot over me after that.
Sure.
Hey, if you don't change your attitude, because this so-and-so might not work out, or this person might not work out, or we might get some more shifts. If we hire more guys, there's another lieutenant spot. So, you need to have a better attitude, because, we'll be testing for lieutenant again. And it didn't matter to me anymore. Why would I care about that spot anymore? I wasn't good enough before. Why would I be good enough now? And I don't care enough anymore to be your officer. You've ruined that for me. Passion, dedication, loyalty, gone, right? Like, you talk about those bottom feeders. That's what that was. And it hurt a lot. So I was done. Even though my attitude changed to be better to those guys around me, I still don't owe him anything anymore. So when I got my offer from the department I'm on now, I was really happy. But actually, to backtrack that, when I would apply for other jobs, I was so nervous about leaving because he made it pretty clear, like, if you're leaving, you don't get to work here anymore. And if I find out you're going to other places, just leave. Don't be a coward. Just tell me you're going to leave. I'll find somebody else to have your spot. And he made people scared to maybe try other places. And so when I would apply to other places, I'd get scared, and I would hope that nobody gave me a job offer, because then I have to have this talk with myself. Do I go or do I stay? I don't know what's going to be. What if I don't like it over there? What if they don't like me? What if I don't like them? What if it's whatever? I can't go back, because he made it very clear. If you leave here, there's no coming back. Now what do I do?
Right.
So I was very scared about going anywhere else. So I did make the hard decision, and I left with the guidance of my wife. Without her helping to make that decision process with me, it would have been a lot more difficult. And, you know, she flat out was honest with me. You need this. If you don't do this, don't come home complaining about how unhappy you are. You made that decision. I'll back you, but don't come home complaining all the time. So it was really difficult, man. So I had the kicker of it is that when I told him I accepted a conditional offer, I was very scared about doing this, because, again, I knew what his reaction was going to be. And so I had this whole plan in my head that we're going to have a dad and lad chat on the bumper. So he loved to work out after his shift. So I waited for him to finish his workout. It was on a Friday. It was a summertime. He comes down. And again, everything was kind of copacetic at this time.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, can I talk to you real quick? Yeah, sure. What's up? I said, just so you know, I'm not sure if you heard the rumors. I got a conditional job offer from this place, and I accepted it. So you're going to hear from them. They're going to do their investigation. And I want you to hear from me first, not from somebody else. I thought that we actually would have, and then he would have sat down and we would have had that great conversation of, oh man, I'm sorry you're going to leave. Was there anything I could do for you? Or, you know, please reconsider something.
Right.
But he just went, all right, fine. And he walked out that door. He texted me an hour later, wanting me to meet on my day off the next day at the office to talk about what I just told him. Go back to the office on my day off, and he ripped me apart for the way I told him that. He said, I thought you were over this. I thought you said you were good. Obviously you're not, because the way you presented this information to me, you waited for me to finish the gym on a Friday evening. So you knew that I wouldn't be able to talk with you. You were a coward. You jumped me on this. You told me this news. Now I'm leaving home. I'm leaving to go home, and I go home, and I am not in a good mood now. You ruined my evening, is what he told me.
Oh my God.
I come home. My wife sees me upset. She knows not to bother me now. Nobody wants to talk to me because I'm upset about this, and you've completely ruined my evening. And I said, well, that wasn't my intention. I thought maybe you and I could have a talk and talk about all these things. And he says, nope, I could tell by the way you gave me that news that you had a grudge, and this is your way of paying it back. I said, well, that's not the case, but I'm sorry you took it that way. And he says, you know, I was so mad. I was going to tell you not to bother to show up for the golf tournament. There was a golf tournament we were a part of.
Sure. Yeah.
We were going to go to. And he says, I was going to tell you not to bother to go to that golf tournament. I said, okay, I don't have to play golf with you if that's the way you feel. I'm totally cool with that. You can invite somebody else. No, it's fine. You can go. But I was that mad. Okay. And it's just, that was his typical response. And he says, that was this whole thing was, just so you know, I have to fill your position right away. So you're going to see those postings go up, and we're going to be filling your spot right away. Okay, man. Yeah. So it was crazy. Like, just the typical narcissist, the typical, it's not my fault, it's your fault. You're disgruntled. He's a problem person. And again, like you talk about, like, you have a top performer, and then you all of a sudden that top performer comes down here is now your problem child. What made him to that level? Right. There had to be something. It's not just one, like as we talked about before. I didn't just wake up one day and go, you know what? F this place, and I'm going to be the worst employee possible. It developed over time, over years. Sure. And where I applied to places over the years because I wasn't happy, but I was also afraid to leave. It was really, really tough to leave, as much as it was, again, it's that abusive relationship. You know, when the spouse is getting beat up, they won't leave. And it's a horrible thing. And again, being a victim of childhood abuse, it was the same thing. I was stuck with it. My mom knew I was getting beaten up by my stepdad, but she wouldn't leave his ass because she didn't want to be alone. Because
Right.
you know, there's that issue of like, I don't want to be a single mom raising 3 kids by myself.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to leave a department that I cut my teeth on, that I grew up with, and we had the loyalty, and I was in my community, and it was a really tough thing. So every time I would bow out, and I would say, nope, it's going to be better. I would usually always do that. It's going to be better. I'm not gonna go for the oral boards, because you know what? Maybe I'm being dramatic. Maybe he was just having a bad day and he didn't mean what he said. So I'd say, you know what? It's going to be better next month. And, you know, for a month or so it was good. And all of a sudden something would trigger. And then right away, be like, you know what? F this place. I don't need it. And I would drive home and go, what am I doing? Why am I here? What am I working for? And it was an environment of backstabbing too, because, and I forgive a lot of those guys that made that report against me, because I know that it's not their fault. That department was really fishing for information and for material. You could tell the way the report's written that they were fishing. When I left the department, I did have people say, I am so sorry for not being there for you. I feel so guilty. I feel so bad for not sticking up for you. And the bottom straw that actually made me realize that I didn't need that place after everything, and really just sparked like wanting to talk about my story, was I read an article. It was David Rhodes and Dina Ali, and they talked about the workplace PTSD. And it came at such a perfect time. I had just saw it as I gave my notice, and it just was a perfect thing. So I shared the post, and I said, now I have a voice to talk. Like, I can share this post knowing I'm not going to get in trouble. And I think it pretty much was simple was, I'm now free to share my story. I now have a voice. And I shared that story. Well, somebody saw that post. They printed that out. There was an association meeting coming up. They gave it to a person who is like 90 years old, and he doesn't know how to use social media. And he doesn't know how to print these things out. So they were doing their elections. One, to vote me in as an honorary member. After 10 years, you become an honorary member.
Gotcha.
That means you get your association. If you die, you get like 20 grand for your family. And then they were going to vote. They were voting for president. They were going to vote me in as a president again. I didn't really want it, but they didn't have anybody else stepping up. So they're doing their votes. But that person, that senior citizen, stood up and said, I got something to say, though, before we make our votes. And he read that post. He had the printout, and he read the post. And he said, if anyone feels this way about the department, they should not be on this association. And he said, I have it under good authority that he's not welcomed back into this department. So how can he be our president if he's not even allowed to be in this department? So I said, you know what, I'll make it pretty easy. I don't need the association. I have my new department, and we have a lot of good things for us. I don't need to be a part of it anymore. I don't want to cause any turmoil. I'll leave on my own will, but I want you all to know that I'm talking about workplace PTSD. I'm talking about toxic leadership. Workplace PTSD is a real thing. I'm dealing with it. I'm in therapy for it. And that's why I made that post. And what was really tough is that nobody in that room stood up and said, you know what, Mike's right. They all remained silent because they were afraid to speak up and defend anybody. And I left. That was it. It was a Zoom meeting. So I just clicked end, and that was the end of it. My wife was sitting in that room and heard everything. And she's like, what the fuck was that? So I told her I was pretty upset. And I said, it just shows that we don't need this department anymore. Mike's the villain. And like I tell people all the time, you're not going to see Mike Goldstein on the walls of that department. There is no history. There is no information. If you were to walk in that department today and ask questions about him, you're not going to get a good answer, because that person does not like me, and that's okay. Like I said, I don't expect closure. I don't expect an apology from him. Honestly, I don't want it.
Right.
But I want my voice to be heard. And that's what made me want to develop this platform. And it's a long story, and I'm glad I get to tell it. Yeah. And there's a lot more details involved in it. But the short of it is, the short and long of it is that I don't want people to think that they can't speak up. And like you said, what he did in the Bay, that was completely wrong and illegal. But not a lot of people know that. And people are still very scared to talk about that, to bring their story to light. These things are real, especially honestly in small communities
Mm-hmm.
and in small departments where you only have a chief. Those guys and girls are afraid to speak to that person because that's their boss. That's gospel. That person is going to make or break you. There's nobody else to talk to. Because even if you go to the town manager, and this is the things I brought up to my HR, is that she said, why am I hearing about this for the first time? I said, because nobody is going to speak up because they're afraid. Because if they speak up, they no longer get to be a firefighter for that community, because you are going to tell that chief that so-and-so has a problem. And that person, now that chief's going to go to that person and go, I hear you got a problem with me. And now it sparks this whole issue. And then he's going to push them out.
Yep.
And there's nowhere for them to go because they're a called member. They can't be a firefighter anywhere else. And for people who are watching, listening, there's not a lot of places for call members and volunteers to go because you have to live in that community, right? Or you have to live within 20 miles or something like that, right? Or 5 miles. So you usually work in the community you live in because you want to provide that service. And then once you can't do that, there's nowhere else to go because you have as a volunteer, you've already developed your career. You know, you might be in IT, you might be a cop somewhere, or you're a doctor, and but you want to do firefighting on the side. And that pays way more than being a volunteer. So you're not going to leave your full-time job to be a volunteer full-time.
Yeah, exactly. No.
Right. So that's what I told her. I said, there's nowhere else for them to go. So they're going to take it. They're going to deal with these hard problems and not tell anybody because they don't want to be pushed out, because they don't want to be bullied. And I dealt a lot with having to deal with a bully. And if you spoke up, you were a problem, you were a villain, and you're a disgruntled employee. No matter what, it's easy. Right. It's really right. It's very, very easy to label people as disgruntled. And that's the thing that sucks the most. But again, if somebody comes in as an asshole, they're going to be an asshole all their life. But when you have somebody who is dedicated, devoted, loyal, aggressive, to do better, to be better, and want to learn as much as you can. And again, they're your top performers. They're your right-hand man. And all of a sudden it just keeps declining. Something's happening. Same thing with my childhood trauma. You got a kid who is fun, happy, and all of a sudden it's dipping down where he's getting in fist fights and telling teachers to go screw. Something's triggering that. A kid doesn't wake up and go, you know what? I'm going to be the baddest kid there is because it's cool. No, there's something's triggering that. And again, leadership needs to understand their employees. Leadership needs to know that you have to read your guys. If there's something going on, whether it's at home or at work, as leaders or senior people, or even just a person sitting in the seat next to you, you'd be able to have those conversations with them, whether you're riding tailboard in the ambulance next to them. Hey, you are not yourself. Something's wrong. What's the matter? I wish people would have had that conversation with me when I was going through those hard times, instead of going to an interview process and having an investigation about the he said, she said. It would have been great if those, I don't know, 12 people that they interviewed, I don't know how many people they interviewed, but it would have been great if they came to me and said, and say, hey man, I know you're having a rough go at it. You're not yourself. Can I help you? Or is there someone you could talk to? Or do you want to talk to me?
Right.
That would have meant the world to me if somebody would have come to me. And again, it's not comfortable because you don't know what reaction you're going to get, right? Sometimes it's anger. And if somebody comes up to you and goes, hey, you okay? You're not all right. And that person might turn around and fucking lose their mind on them.
Yep.
But then let them vent and just stand there and say, okay, yep.
Yeah, you seem fucking normal. Yep, this is normal.
All right. Now, as that's coming out, right, that we talk about that water bucket, right? It's overflowed. Yep. And so now that person venting is trying to get all that stuff out of that bucket. And you're just that person who happened to be there because you asked that question. You got to be prepared for anybody who's looking to talk to somebody. If you're the person that's asking the question, be prepared for that person to unload their bucket onto you. It's not going to be pretty, but at times you're just maybe have to just nod your head and listen and keep nodding your head. And eventually, as the buckets hopefully starts to get a little bit shallow, then you can start asking questions and then, develop that trust. But that's what happens with these guys. And honestly, with line of duty deaths of suicide, I get angry at times because I want to know why they're doing it. I want to know what's triggering it, because in my darkest times, there was times where I'm like, am I good enough in this world? Am I needed? Like, what's my purpose? and he made me question it. And I hate him for making me question that. I do, because as leaders, we should always be developing our men and women, not pushing them down and not making them question if they're good enough for this department, if they're good enough for this life. And that was the biggest thing for me, is he made me question, am I good enough all around? And that really pissed me off. So I carried that around. My shoulders were weighted down by those rocks, and I had no way to go. And I did reach out for therapy. I did take some therapy, but the biggest thing to help me was changing departments. If I didn't change departments, I don't know where I'd be right now. So it was really imperative that I got out, and I'm glad I did. I'm a better person for it. I still struggle though. I get in those ruts where I feel like I'm not good enough. I get in those ruts where it's still in my brain that I'm just a shitty person. When that post I made, I happened to I was scrolling through pictures and I saw that, and it triggered me. And so that's why I made that post, because it queued up those emotions again. And I was angry again. I was pissed off. And I want the world to know, like, this shit's not right. Honestly. And again, I'm trying not to sound disgruntled, but that report that was made against me is not right. That's not how you're supposed to go about it. Maybe in their eyes, in their protocol world, that shit ain't right. And I was really, really angry when I had to get the report, and when I saw it again. But now, again, having this platform to be able to share my story without fear, like, that's the best feeling in the world, is honestly to be able to talk to you, talk to others, get the message out that it's okay to feel, it's okay to have emotions. And for me to be able to have that freedom to tell the world what they did is not right, how I was being treated is not okay, and not having a voice is not okay. And if someone is being a bully to you, you need to speak up. And if you're afraid to speak up, reach out to somebody else and say, hey, I need help. I don't know what to do. I'm afraid to talk to this person. He scares the shit out of me. What am I supposed to do? But just, people are afraid of the repercussions. Like I said earlier, like the guys were afraid to complain, because that means paperwork. That means, okay, we need to get statements from everybody, because if I take any kind of legal action, that's lawyers, that's court, that's scary. And again, now you're labeled as a tattletale. You're labeled as being disloyal, and you don't talk about things that happen in the firehouse. Those will stay in behind those walls, right?
Yep.
So, now Mike can't be trusted because he's talking about his chief, and that hurts. So that's why I never spoke up. And the day I spoke up, that whole association dismissed me and said, well, we can't have him in our association. And even one step further, not a lot of people know this. If you want to bring it, you want to go hard. He actually tried to get me fired from one of my part-time jobs because of that post. He said he felt that Mike wasn't going to deliver quality service. So I think he was talked to my boss, and he told my boss, I don't think you should have him continue to work there, because I feel that he's going to be biased and not deliver the service that he needs to as a dispatcher. And I was shocked by that. But my boss, I give him all the credit in the world. We have our differences, but my former boss, it was a part-time job. He stood up for me and he said, look, to that chief, I don't think I can do that. Like, he didn't do anything wrong. The post that he made about speaking out does not identify you or that department. I'm pretty sure we can't do that. And he got some advice from other people, and they said the same thing. He can't do that. He can't be fired. I get that dude. That takes a lot of balls. It takes a lot of guts to be able to say to a chief and say, nay, that's not going to work. So, but he wanted to make sure that I was out entirely. So it's really tough when you have to deal with those people. But like I always say on my platforms, anyone else I talk to, it can make or break you. You got to take that negative and turn it into a positive. And if I'm inspiring others, if I get one person out of this to come to me and say, this helped me, that I felt the same way, it's a win for me.
That's dude. You left me speechless, and I can have a conversation with a fucking rock. So that's good stuff, buddy. There's a lot that's put on the show, and before I sign off for this one, I want you to throw your sign off that you do a lot for Next Rung, and kind of give everybody on my show what it's about and how it can help them if they fall in the same situation that you do.
Yeah, brother. What JP is referring to is Next Rung. I have his card right here with the barcode. So if anybody wants to take pictures of that, he got his number on the back. Next Rung is run by Blake Stennett and Charlie Brown. Yes, Charlie Brown is his real name.
Fantastic.
They are fantastic people. I have met them numerous times. There is no underlying theme. The theme is they're here to help us. They're doing great things. There's a lot of avenues you can take. There's a lot of other people that you can reach out to. First Responder Center of Excellence, Frank Lieb and Dina Ali. They do great things as well. If you need directions or help, please reach out to Dina Ali or Frank Lieb and the First Responder Center of Excellence. That's a great source of information. Next Rung, these guys they're extremely into their faith, and they want people to trust in God, to trust in the mission, trust in themselves. And what I love about Next Rung is that they are always raising funds to help people who maybe don't have the funds to get the help that they need. So,
Awesome.
and they also help you set up for appointments. If you don't know where to go, if you don't know who to talk to, you literally call that number or you can text that number and they will start talking to you. And then they will reach out to services in your area and get you scheduled for an appointment. They will all this for you, will do the job for you, but
Love
you
it.
got to speak out first. If you don't talk, we don't know what's wrong. We can't help you. You got to be strong and you got to be able to find your voice and talk to somebody. And Next Rung, again, they're really great. You can text that number and they will help you. It doesn't have to be a face. If you're afraid to talk to somebody on the phone or if you're afraid to see somebody face to face, they will work it out for you and they will get the help that you need. But you got to make the first step and get the help. You got to reach out to somebody. So yeah, the guys at Next Rung, I absolutely love them. And again, First Responder Center for Excellence, Dina Ali, Frank Lieb, that whole team are fantastic. I had Dina Ali on my program. She is a big advocate for first responder mental health. She has dealt with workplace PTSD and toxic leadership herself. So that's why I love talking to her and promoting her. Also, there's an article written by the Firewives Club. It's called Organizational Betrayal. I had them on my show. If anybody's dealing with organizational betrayal, look up that article. It's on fire engineering. Tracy McCart, Kathy Edwards. Look them up. It's a great article. It's not a very long read, so it's easy for us firefighters to read it.
I'm in.
It's like, right?
You said easy.
It's like a
I'm in.
one-page thing. So
Even
I
better.
absolutely
I'm
loved
in.
it. Yeah, it was a great article. They hit the nail on the head. So please reach out to these people that I talk about. I sought my help on my own. It was tough, but I did it. And honestly, my wife makes fun of me. She's like, you did like 2 sessions of therapy and you said you were fine. 2 sessions aren't going to do it. You need to go back. The one and done is not it. I know we live in this fast food world where, everything's done with a click of a button. You have to be dedicated to your help. And therapy is not just 1 session. You got to dedicate your time to therapy. So when these people set this up for you, or if you do it for yourself, stick with it. I think employers are really good now with understanding if you go to ones who actually care and say, I have a problem, I need help, and I've sought out help. They're going to make sure that your shifts are covered, or there's also other avenues too, is the IFF Center for Excellence as well. That you can go there. Also, since we're on that real quick, Kurt Isaacson, he was a Escambia fire chief. He just went through a huge struggle with himself for mental health, and he was not secretive about it. He made sure everybody knew the struggles he was having, and he sought help for it. And I think that should be commended when somebody could be that open and transparent in what he does, because if he can do it, I can do it. That's what we should be understanding. And he is a man that has seen a lot. He's done a lot. He's helped a lot of people. He runs a great conference with County Fire Tactics. But the fact that he was very open about his struggles in life and he sought help for it and he came out better on the other side, that's something pretty special. So IFF Center for Excellence, Next Rung, First Responder Center for Excellence, all those avenues. Again, if you don't know where you're going, if you don't remember any of this, you can reach out to me. If you just need to talk because I had those experiences, reach out to me. I'll talk with you. If you need someone to cry, I'll cry. I'm a crier. I'm a hugger. So I'll do all of that. I'm there for you. And that's the biggest thing. Again, I can't express enough. The platform I built is because I want a positive message for everyone, whether it's New Hampshire or California, whether it's Mexico or Canada. I want people to be better. And we all need to pull together as brotherhood and sisterhood. And these people are here to help us.
I love it. What for our listeners is the best way for somebody to get a hold of you, to follow you, and get behind the Can Report movement?
Yeah, man. So I'm all over social media. You can message me on Instagram. You can message me on Facebook Messenger. On my podcasts are on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. If you need to get a hold of me, you text me. My number's out there, 603-547-5170. Just let me know who you are and what's going on. But I'm completely transparent with that, dude. Like, you need to get a hold of me. I'm not going to turn you away. I'll try to get you help. Or again, if you just literally want to say thank you for being open, it helped me, I'd love to hear that too. That helps me to understand that we're all making a difference. So thank you, JP. Appreciate it.
No, listen, this has been what killer episode, guys. This is a fireman's fireman right here. Mike Goldstein is he's been through it. He's lived it. And he has come out absolutely better on the other side of it. He has seen everything that I talk about being a bottom feeder. He has seen passive leadership, where the chiefs of the organization at the time accepted that this individual's actions were just how they are as a person. They accepted the retaliation of Mike being called out on the apparatus bay floor because of him standing up for what he believed in. A hostile workplace environment was also created just by doing that inside of itself. Ladies and gentlemen, some of this came up because we need to understand that sometimes as firefighters, we have to be able to vent. And Mike did try to vent in confidence to a firefighter. And because of misplaced loyalties, another leadership gap that I list as a bottom feeder trait, Mike became victim of that. A victim of circumstance, a victim of an organization that is culturally defunct and absolutely struggling right now. And this is what we need to worry about fixing in the fire service. This is JP with The Passionate Leader, a really good friend of mine, Mike Stickers Goldstein with the Can Report. If you have not, get your ass out there, like, share, and follow everything that he does. We talked a lot about a report that is out there. If you want to find it, look up the Can Report on Instagram, and I do believe I'm tagged on it too, so you can look for The Passionate Leader on Instagram. You can find it. It's absolutely nauseating what you're going to see in this report. Well, that's a wrap for now, and you know what, everybody. As I always say, the leadership creed: lead with passion, serve with humility, and leave no room for bottom feeders. Until next time, guys, stay safe.